Hey everyone, thanks for checking back into the channel. Well, this is part 2 to the review of the CVLIFE Bear Power first focal plane 4 to 16 power optic. Today I've got this scope mounted up on my Ruger 1022. I'm going to start out with boresighting this to get this thing on paper, and then I'm going to go through and move the turrets around a little bit, kind of put in a couple different solutions and progress to actually kind of abusing these turrets, really rapidly turning them and just going heavy on it more than you would normally do to see if this will hold zero and see if it will track back to where it's supposed to be. With all that said, let's get at it. I'm going to start out the boresighting process using this laser magnetic boresighter that I've got from Midten. Now these things are super simple to use and they work on really just about every caliber and barrel configuration that you've got out there. Real simple to use. There's these concentric rings on the end. We're just going to magnetically stick that to the barrel and line up these rings. Now what this is going to do is send a little green dot on down to our target. I'm going to look through the scope, see the reticle crosshairs, and I'm going to move the reticle around until it is lined up with that green dot. This should finish up the boresighting, get us on paper, and get me ready to send those rounds downrange. Now it didn't take but a few shots to move the turrets around and get this thing all zeroed in after boresighting. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this little coin and I'm going to loosen up the turret caps and put these at 0 so I know where my 0 point is before I get to twisting the turrets. With the turrets now all set up, everything all zeroed and adjusted, we are going to get to unlocking these and doing some turning. So I'm just going to spin these around a bunch and kind of work the mechanism some. Before we even see if it tracks like it's supposed to do, we're going to see if it'll hold at 0 by giving some cranks in. All right, let me set these back up on their zeros here and send some more rounds down that range. Now I am only shooting at 25 yards right now, so the adjustments need to be quite a bit to move this thing around some, but let's send them down and see how it does. Now the plan is to send these 5 rounds back down range and they should go pretty much in the bullseye. Now, I didn't spend a whole lot of time to get this thing bench quality zeroed. As you can see, I've got the rifle sitting up here on a tripod, only at 25 yards. So we've got these 5 rounds in here, the CCI ammunition. We got the scope all twisted around a bit. Let's see how she does holding that 0. All right, let's take the camera down there and let you guys see what it did. All right, here is our 25-yard target. Now, I was shooting at this bullseye right here after twisting around the turrets, both the windage and elevation. Now, it looks like our windage stayed true, but our elevation is off some. I'm going to double check and make sure I don't have the turret off a full rotation. I'm going to send 5 more rounds down at this one here. Now this optic doesn't have a 0 stop, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to spin it down 1 full rotation just to make sure that I didn't make a mistake. And I'm going to send down 5 more rounds at that lower bullseye. Let's walk down there again and see how things went. All right, so those are much closer than these ones were. So I very may, well have been off by one full rotation without this scope having a zero stop. So these 5 are right here. Let me twist them around a bunch more, and I'm gonna send some up to this target here. Here we go, 5 more. All right, I can tell already things look a little bit better down there. All right, here we go. So this was shot group 1, shot group 2, and shot group 3. A little bit of a rewind here. Mix up on my part. Without the optic having a zero stop, I was off by a full rotation right here. Spun it down a full rotation. We got this group, and just to confirm this group, I shot this group here. Now, again, these are not tight groups. I'm wiggling around and I'm shooting quick, just kind of sending these rounds down here. But it appears to me the optic has held its zero with just those rapid, kind of abusive turns that I was doing. So as far as that goes, I think we're pretty good. I'm going to send a few rounds over here and let's see how it tracks if this thing moves like it's supposed to as far as distance as the clicks in the turret say. Okay, so we're going to move our windage knob, and this is a 1/4 MOA scope. We're only at 25 yards, so it's going to take 16 clicks for this to move 1 inch. So I'm going to move this 32 clicks and see if we get our point of impact to move 2 inches to the right. Just got 3 rounds in this time. Let's see how this does. All right, let's take a peek at the target. All right, well, I think we're safe to say that we're about 2 inches to the right. So I'm gonna move that back to center as the last shot group and see if we can put them in the center. See if it tracks right. All right, for this last shot group, I'm just gonna send down a random 2. See if these moved back over to the bull and see if the tracking held zeroing like it's supposed to. So let's get these last couple down here and see how she does. All right, let's take a peek and see how it did. Okay, final shot group. So I had turned the turrets, 32 clicks, 2 inches. Off of center point of aim, and we shot right here. Moved it back to the zero, and we put a couple shots right here. Now these aren't in the bullseye, but this is where the shots were landing before anyway. So the zero is not as tight as it could be how I'm shooting. However, it does appear that it has held at zero and is tracked properly. All right, I've got the shooting done, and what can we decipher from this really crude tracking test? Does this CVLIFE Bear Power Optic have precision tracking? Now, we can't really tell. This was a real crude test that I did, but we can tell that it actually is holding zero, and it does track. Now, to what degree of precision? this was not set up to tell us a percentage of error, but it is set up to, at least let us know this thing is not just sending rounds all over the place after spinning those turrets around like that. Many bottom tier budget optics will. If you take some of the real cheap stuff and you just spin those turrets around, plastic internals and just really sloppy stuff, the rounds will go all over and your zero will be lost. But this CVLIFE optic, going into this review, going into testing this thing, my expectations were not very high. In fact, they were low. I expected this thing to be a pile of junk. I expected the optic to just really have poor glass and extremely bad tracking. And, I've been quite impressed. When I pull those turret caps off, I seen brass in there. When I was looking through the glass and getting some shoot-through footage for you guys, it was a kind of a foggy, hazy day if you follow back to the other content. But from my perspective, without the filming stuff in place, the glass is quite clear. And today I'm shooting, I've got the sun high over my head. You can see the shadow from my brim, but it is forward on me and I don't have the sunshade out of the optic, and the glass is real clear. The reticle is crisp. So if you're looking for a budget optic, you don't want to put the money into some of the, we've got other optics that are considered the lower price things, but for the bottom tier cost, if you've got something that you want to put an optic on, you don't want to put a lot of money into it, this thing is doing well. I don't have any long-term use on this yet to, see how it holds up, but all indications are this thing shoots pretty good. So, hey, with that, I'm finishing up this test with this CVLIFE Bear Power first focal plane optic. Now, I'm going to compare this to some other optics that you guys can go through my content and see some other brands that I spend a lot of time on. I'm going to compare this to that brand's comparative model that would price range with this and see, how they stack up together. But with all that said and all that out of the way, thanks for tagging along today. I'm out in the field, not actually at the range, but I am shooting. So with that said, get yourself all locked and loaded up, get out there and do some shooting.